गुड इवनिंग, नमस्ते एंड आदाब हमारे सभी एप्पल ग्रोअर्स को जो हमारे साथ आज हिमाचल प्रदेश, जम्मू कश्मीर और देश के अलग अलग हिस्सों से जो भी हमारे साथ किसान जुड़ रहे हैं, आप सब लोग का आज के इस बहुत ही खास एफपी लाइव सेशन में मैं डॉक्टर रिदम कक्कड़ बहुत बहुत स्वागत करती हूँ। आज हम आप लोग को मिलवाएंगे डॉक्टर काचा बोगटान से, जो यारा में एक सीनियर साइंटिस्ट है और बहुत सालों से सिर्फ और सिर्फ फ्रूट क्रॉप्स, हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स में, खासकर फ्रूट क्रॉप्स में प्लांट न्यूट्रिशन के ऊपर ही काम कर रही हैं। इनका योगदान एप्पल की फील्ड में, बनाना की, केले की फील्ड में उनके न्यूट्रिशन पे, कि कैसे न्यूट्रिशन का इफेक्ट क्वालिटी पे पड़ता है, पैदावार पे पड़ता है, ऑन ईयर ऑफ ईयर पे पड़ता है, हमारी जो अल्टीमेट हम लोग मार्केट के हिसाब से जो पैदावार लाना चाहते हैं उस पे किस हिसाब से न्यूट्रिशन का इफेक्ट पड़ता है, और यहाँ तक कि जो हमारा डिजीज की प्रॉब्लम होती है उस पर भी इनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान यारा में और ओवरऑल हमारी बहुत सी देशों में रहा है। डॉक्टर काचा यारा में 2008 से सीनियर साइंटिस्ट के रूप में काम कर रही हैं और इन्होंने अपनी पूरी पढ़ाई है, अपना पूरा जो स्टडी है वो भी हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप में ही किया है, प्लांट न्यूट्रिशन में ही किया है। और आज डॉक्टर काचा सारे हमारे एप्पल ग्रोअर्स को, हमारे जितने भी ऑर्चर्डिस्ट भाई हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं, बहनें जुड़ी हैं, सब लोगों को वो अभी के समय के अनुसार बताएंगी, या अभी जो पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट न्यूट्रिशन का समय चल रहा है उसके अनुसार बताएंगे कि क्यों हमें एप्पल में पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट न्यूट्रिशन करना चाहिए, कैसे हमें पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट न्यूट्रिशन करना चाहिए, इसका क्या महत्व मिलेगा। और ये सारी चीज़ें डॉक्टर काचा आपको बहुत ही आसान तरीके से और बहुत अच्छी रिसर्च के साथ, बहुत अच्छे तर्क के साथ समझाएंगी, ताकि किसी भी किसान के मन में कोई गुंजाइश ना रहे, कोई सवाल ना हो कि क्यों मैंने पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट न्यूट्रिशन करना है, इससे क्या फ़ायदा होगा, कैसे होगा। आपका एक एक डाउट अच्छी रिसर्च के साथ, अच्छे रिजल्ट्स के साथ और बहुत ही आसान तरीके से डॉक्टर काजा आप लोग को बताएंगी। तो मैं आप लोगों से आशा करती हूँ कि आप लोग आज ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इस सेशन में अपनी हिस्सेदारी दिखाएंगे और जो हमारी एक बहुत अच्छी और बहुत ही एक्सपीरियंस्ड सीनियर साइंटिस्ट हैं यारा की, डॉक्टर काचा, आप उनके द्वारा आज बहुत अच्छी जानकारी लेंगे और हम अंत में आप लोग के क्वेश्चंस लेंगे, आप लोग के डाउट्स लेंगे, ताकि डॉक्टर काचा उन क्वेश्चंस को भी आपके एड्रेस कर सके, उनको भी आपको अच्छे से जवाब दे सके। और इसी के साथ अब मैं वेलकम करती हूँ डॉक्टर काचा का। Dr. Kaja, a very warm welcome to you on behalf of Yara India. And without further ado, I welcome you and I request you to please start this very informative session for all our apple orchardists, apple growers. Thank you so much, Dr. Kacha. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. I'm very happy to give you today some information about post-harvest nutrition in apples, which will help to sustain high yields of apples also with high quality. My Indian colleagues, they selected this wonderful picture that you can see here. The harvest is over and you might feel like this man celebrating the last harvest and rest. Well, celebrating, yes, that's always good, but extensive rest, better not. And I will show you why it is exactly now important to take care for nutrition of apples. Why is post-harvest a crucial time in apple crop cycle? Actually, there are two important reasons. First of all, the time after harvest is crucial to replenish, to refill the nutrient reserves for the next season. Why is this so? Because most nutrients are stored in the tree during winter, in the tree buds, in the bark, and also in the roots. And these stored nutrients are then remobilized in the early spring. They are used to fuel the leaf growth, the flower formation, the fruit formation, and the growth in general. And secondly, at the same time, the time after harvest is a time of high root activity. And nutrient uptake depends on active root growth. During this time, the nutrients can be taken up efficiently. Until then, the winter temperatures go down and the ground freezes. So let's have a closer look at the mobilization and remobilization of nutrients in the apple crop cycle. In the early spring, when leaf growth just starts, the uptake of new nutrients from the soil is slow and delayed, since the leaves are still very small and the transpiration stream and photosynthesis also is still very low. The nutrients that are urgently needed for growth in general, but especially also for the flower formation, has to be remobilized from the stored nutrients out of the bark, out of the roots, etc. The remobilization of the nutrient reserves is represented in green in this graph. During the crop cycle, the reserves are consumed and depleted. The green bar becomes smaller. And the new uptake of nutrients and the importance of new formed nutrient reserves increases until we reach the current time period, until we reach post-harvest, which shows the highest possibility to build up reserves for the next season. The second important reason why post-harvest is a crucial time in apple crop cycle is because it is one of the two phases of active root growth. Apple trees have two distinctive phases of active root growth. The first phase is initiated in spring by the rising soil temperatures. And the second phase occurs after crop removal post-harvest. With later varieties, however, this may occur while the fruit is still on the tree. And obviously, nutrition becomes important during this active root flush phases. The phases of active root growth were studied during a trial which was conducted by Stellenbosch University in South Africa. Over a period of 2 years, 2013 and 2014, they measured the number of white roots, which is here on the y-axis. And they found two distinctive phases of root growth with a high number of white roots. And they called it spring flush and autumn flush. Especially for the nutrient calcium, the formation of white roots is important. Why is this the case? Because calcium is mainly taken up by the actively growing roots, by the young white root tips. So in this study, it was investigated where the important sites for the calcium uptakes are. And what we can see here is it become obvious that the main calcium uptake took place at the root tip. So the highest calcium uptake was at the root tip, 0 to 3 centimeter. And this is because at the root tip, the Casparian band is not formed yet. The Casparian band is a band-like thickening in the center of the root endodermis. And this band is not water permeable, and it therefore represents kind of barrier for calcium. Not completely, but it's a barrier for calcium. So at a distance of, for example, 15 centimeter from the root tip, we already have this Casparian band, which is the red cycle in this picture, and there the calcium uptake is much lower than it was at the root tip. So high calcium uptake is only possible during new root formation, right, at the white root tips. At the same time, vice versa, root formation depends on the presence of calcium in the soil solution. So, meaning only with calcium in the soil solution, there's a high number of white roots. No calcium means no white roots, no root growth, and a limited uptake of nutrients, of all nutrients, not only of calcium nutrients. So, meaning sufficient calcium in soil solution is important to stimulate a strong second phase of root flush in autumn. And a strong second phase of root flush at post-harvest ensures sufficient amount of nutrients stored in the trunk, which then can be used for remobilization in spring. What is the right time to apply the nutrients to optimize the nutrient storage in the tree? So the optimum time is between fruit removal and leaf fall, when the leaves and roots are still active and able to absorb the nutrients. What are the key nutrients to be applied at harvest? After harvest. So the key nutrients that should be considered at this stage of growth cycles are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and boron. They should be considered mainly, and I would like to come to each of these nutrients during the next slides. So nitrogen is important for the new growth in spring. With post-harvest nitrogen application, the flower buds will have an adequate nitrogen supply for a high fruit set. With sufficient nitrogen carbohydrate reserves can be built, and it was shown that post-harvest application of nitrogen can also reduce biennial bearing tendencies, so meaning nitrogen reserves help to have consistent yields year after year. I would like to give you an impression on how important the reserve nitrogen is in apple tree for new growth. So this graph shows the nitrogen in new growth during the time after bud break, up to 160 days after bud break. The red numbers display 7 key developmental stages throughout the annual growth cycle. So number 1 is the bud break, number 2 represents the bloom, 3 end of spur leaf growth, 4 end of shoot growth, 5 is the rapid fruit expansion growth, and finally 6 was the fruit at fruit harvests. The black cycles represent the total N in the new growth. And what we can see here is that at bloom, which is the number 2, almost all nitrogen of the new growth was provided by the reserve N, which is represented by the black triangles here. The same height. So everything was provided by reserve N at that time. And even at the end of the spur leaf growth, which is number 3 here, about 2/3 of the total nitrogen was provided by reserve N. Even at fruit harvest, reserve N contributed to about 45% to the total N in shoots and leaves. So these results show that sufficient high N reserves are really important. Also, in the next example, I can see that the post-harvest nitrogen application, in this case it's a foliar application, was very efficient, as well as a spring application also. So in this study, all treatments received the same amount of soil applied nitrogen, also the control treatment, and then an additional foliar application of nitrogen in spring and in autumn resulted in the highest fruit yield compared to summer or no foliar application. So meaning foliar nitrogen application increases the initial fruit set and sustains the fruitlet until enough soil N can be taken up in the later spring period. Next to nitrogen, of course, also phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium should not be neglected during the period of post-harvest. Phosphorus helps to build up strong root systems after harvest. Since the root activity is high at post-harvest, the readily available phosphorus will be taken up efficiently, and this phosphorus then is used for further root growth mainly. Phosphorus is highly mobile in plants, and it can be then remobilized from the reserves to locations of high energy requirements. For example, it can be remobilized and then used for the formation of seeds and fruits. Therefore, phosphorus supports the bud development, the early rooting, and new tissue growth in the following spring. Next to phosphorus, also potassium is highly mobile in plants. Also, potassium can be remobilized in spring from reserves to the locations of demand. Therefore, potassium that is applied at post-harvest fills the reserves for next season's early growth of new plant tissues, and it helps to maximize the tree productivity. The period of post-harvest should also be used to build up magnesium in the tree. Magnesium can be applied foliar or via soil, and filling up the reserves means also strengthen the reserves. As you probably know, magnesium is a central component of chlorophyll, and therefore it is necessary for photosynthesis. It supports the production and storage of carbohydrates, so it also helps the plant to get through the winter. During the next slides, I would like to discuss the post-harvest application of boron and calcium, actually a bit more in detail as I did it for phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium, since these nutrients are also crucial, and we can also find actually more research details in literature regarding these nutrients. So calcium is important regarding several aspects. As discussed in the beginning, calcium is important to build up and strengthen the root system. But calcium is also very important for fruit quality and shelf life. And post-harvest application helps to increase calcium contents in fruits because it ensures sufficient calcium in the buds of the next season. So it ensures next season buds to have sufficient calcium reserves for flowering and for a strong fruit set. Important to mention this also, that calcium has to be applied in an available form. A soluble calcium form, like it is present in Yara India, for example, should be applied in order to stimulate the root growth and to improve the calcium uptake. Calcium also helps in adapting to environmental stress, like it can be seen in the following slide. So this study was conducted with peers. However, it can be assumed that similar picture would be found in apples. So in this trial, the trees were supplied either with calcium nitrate or with ammonium nitrate, with two different application rates, either 0.5 or 1 pound N per tree. And branches of the trees were then sampled, and the cold tolerance of these branches was measured. And the measurement, the cold tolerance T50 means that the temperature at which 50% of the branches experienced cold damage. So 50% of the branches could not show any living flower buds anymore. And it could be shown that the winter hardiness of pears was increased by use of calcium nitrate compared to ammonium nitrate. And this can probably be ascribed to the calcium. In the next experiment, calcium and boron was applied to apples as post-harvest foliar sprays. And after post-harvest foliar sprays, the young and mature fruits of the next season were sampled, analyzed, and compared to each other regarding the calcium content in the fruits. On the left side, we can see the calcium content in young fruits, and on the right side, the calcium content in mature fruits. And what we can see is that post-harvest calcium and boron foliar sprays increased the calcium concentration in young as well as in mature fruits. It also seems to be the way that a combined calcium and boron spray was most effective in increasing calcium concentration in fruits, which might indicate a synergistic relation between calcium and boron. So these results prove that calcium applied as foliar spray at post-harvest can be found in the next season fruits, helping to increase quality and shelf life. With the next slides, I will come to boron and also zinc. Both nutrients are, of course, essential for the normal development of new tissue in shoot tips, flowers, fruits, and root. Especially boron is needed for the pollen tube formation and therefore for the fruit set. In apple, zinc as well as boron can be remobilized in spring and translocated to the buds, and this is important actually because the root absorption starts only at 5 to 6 leaf stage. Boron is actually not in all trees mobile. In many species, boron is immobile, meaning not able to remobilize. For example, in walnut, boron is phloem immobile. On the left side, the boron concentration within a walnut leaf is shown. The highest boron concentration can be found at the tip and at the margin of the walnut leaf. So this is very typical for plants in which boron is immobile. The boron distribution is determined only by transpiration, by the water flux into the leaf, and then the boron is accumulating at the margin and leaf tip. On the right side, we can see an apple leaf. In apple, boron is mobile. In apple leaves, the boron concentrations are significantly lower and more uniformly distributed. And this is actually typical for species with the flowing mobility. So this shows boron can be remobilized. It's not only accumulating, but it can be used again, remobilized, and translocated to the places of demand. And places of demand are especially flower and fruit development. This study shows the importance of boron for fruit growth and development. In the graph on the left side, we can see the boron concentration in the fruit tissue, represented by the open cycle, and the boron concentration of leaf tissue, represented by the black cycle. So in this study, these tissues have been analyzed on all essential nutrients. However, boron was the only nutrient that had a much higher concentration in the flower than in the leaf at bloom. So this indicates already the high importance of boron for flowering. In the graph on the right side, the importance becomes even more clear. Here we can see that the total boron accumulation in the fruit, represented by the open cycle, is increasing with the fruit development. And at harvest, it is many times higher than the total boron accumulation in shoot and leaves, represented by the black triangles. So a high portion of boron is partitioned to the fruits during the vegetation. So these findings indicate the importance of boron to fruit growth and development. Also, results of the following study show how important boron for the fruit development is. In this study, labeled boron was applied as foliar spray post-harvest. Label means that you are able to trace it back in spring. So on the y-axis, we can see the average percentage of boron derived from the labeled fertilizer. And most of the boron derived from foliar spray was actually found in flower buds and flower clusters in the next season. So this suggests, first of all, that foliar application in autumn can be remobilized because we can find it in the flower in next spring. And secondly, that buds are apparently a preferential sink for boron mobilization. Therefore, post-harvest boron foliar application is an effective measure to ensure to help sufficient boron in the flowers of the following spring. Boron can be applied either via soil or via foliar application. In this slide, soil application is compared to post-harvest boron application via foliar, via the leaves. Boron was sprayed as boric acid, and it was also labeled. So it can be traced back in the following spring. And in the following spring, the foliar applied boron was mainly found in flower buds and flower clusters, with the blue and green bar here. Whereas most of the soil applied boron was still retained by roots in early spring. 60% of the labeled fertilizer was found in the roots. So this high percentage of boron retained in the root is actually not wasted, because it can be mobilized during the growth cycle. However, the foliar boron in autumn is an efficient way to increase the flowers, to the boron concentration in the flowers, and to reduce a risk of boron deficiency in flower buds and flower clusters. Increased boron concentration after foliar spray are not only found in flower buds and clusters, but also in the fruit. This can be seen in this results of this study. In this study, apples were treated with post-harvest boron and calcium sprays. In the following summer and autumn, the boron concentration in young fruits as well as in mature fruits at harvest were measured. The boron concentration in young and mature fruits was significantly increased due to post-harvest foliar sprays. In the same study, the researchers measured also the fruit firmness at harvest, which is of course important for good shelf life, right? They measured the fruit firmness at harvest and also after 3 months of storage. The post-harvest spray was either conducted with calcium, with boron, or with calcium and boron. What we can see is that the fruit firmness decreased as the storage period advances, so after 3 months is lower than at harvest. That is actually what we expect to happen. But what we also see is, first of all, a positive effect of boron, considering the fruit firmness at harvest, and secondly, that the calcium and boron treatments, the combination, resulted in the highest fruit firmness at harvest as well as after storage, indicating again a synergistic relation between calcium and boron. Both are important to give a good fruit quality and shelf life. Next to calcium and boron, also zinc is an important nutrient for a good fruit development. So in my last slide, I would like to present results of a study from apples in Argentina. In this study, labeled zinc was applied as foliar spray to apples, also as post-harvest spray. And on the left side of the graph, we can see the total zinc concentration in different plant parts. And the by far highest bar is the green bar, representing the zinc concentration in the kingflower. Much lower zinc was found in leaves of the treated spur or next to the treated spur, or in the boss leaf of the treated spur. So we have a high portion of total zinc that is partitioned to the flower, which indicates that also zinc is important for fruit development. Looking at the labeled zinc on the right side of the graph, we can see that 21% of the labeled zinc that was applied post-harvest was found in the king flower. So this helps to realize sufficient zinc content for fruit growth. So with that, I would like to come to the last slide and sum up a little bit the presented findings. So post-harvest nutrient application is a crucial time to fill up nutrient reserves for the next season. We've seen that is the reason because post-harvest is a time of high root activity. The nutrients are taken up efficiently and can influence the yield and quality of the next season crop. And of course, a balance of soil and foliar products is the best approach to replenish the lost reserves of the tree before dormancy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kacha, for such an insightful presentation and for sharing such wonderful researches from all over the world to our farmers. Thanks a lot. मैं थोड़ा सा इसको सम अप करना चाहूँगी हिंदी में हमारे सभी किसानों के लिए। डॉक्टर काटजा ने आज आप लोग को बहुत अच्छे से पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट न्यूट्रिशन करने के रीजंस जो यारा आप लोग को समझाना चाहती है, हम इतने टाइम से आप लोग को ये चीज़ समझाना चाह रहे हैं कि हमारा जो हमारा पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट का फ्रूट ट्री होता है वो पूरी तरीके से उसमें न्यूट्रिएंट ख़त्म हो चुका होता है, न्यूट्रिएंट एग्जॉस्ट हो चुके होते हैं। तो एक वो रीज़न है हमारे लिए पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट न्यूट्रिशन करने का। और जैसे डॉक्टर काटजा ने आपको समझाया कि जो हमारा पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट का पीरियड होता है वो जो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट रूट्स होती हैं उनका भी ग्रोथ पीरियड होता है और उन्हीं रूट्स को, उन्हीं रूट ग्रोथ को सपोर्ट करने के लिए यहाँ पे कैल्शियम फॉस्फोरस देना ज़रूरी है। अगर वो रूट्स अभी जो आपकी पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट में आ रही हैं जहाँ पे मैक्सिमम न्यूट्रिएंट का एब्जॉर्प्शन आगे चल कर के भी होना है, अगर उन रूट ग्रोथ को हम लोग प्रॉपरली करवा पाए, प्रॉपरली सपोर्ट अभी करवा पाए प्रॉपर न्यूट्रिशन के साथ, तो उसका फ़ायदा हमें आगे आने वाले सीजन में देखने को मिलता है। तो हम लोगों ने देखा कि कैसे डॉक्टर काटजा ने हम लोग को समझाया कि हमारे जो न्यूट्रिएंट्स मेन है उसमें नाइट्रोजन इन्होंने बताया कि जो हम अभी अपना पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट में नाइट्रोजन देते हैं वो हमारी बड ब्रेक के 40 दिन तक 100% यही नाइट्रोजन आपका काम आता है, 100%। और 60 दिन पे आपका यही नाइट्रोजन लगभग 2/3 आपका काम आता है। तो पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट पे दिया नाइट्रोजन कम से कम आपके आने वाले जो सीजन जब आपका चालू होगा 60 दिन तक, कम से कम 60 दिन तक यही नाइट्रोजन आपके एप्पल ट्री के लिए सफिशिएंट रहता है और उसी को ये काम करवाता है। उसी के साथ हमने फॉस्फोरस के बारे में समझा कि कैसे ये हमारे रूट सिस्टम के लिए और जहाँ पर भी हमारी हाई एनर्जी रिक्वायरिंग प्रोसेसेस होंगे वहाँ पर ये फॉस्फोरस हमारा यूटिलाइज होगा। फिर डॉक्टर काटजा ने हमको मैग्नीशियम के बारे में बहुत अच्छी जानकारी दी कि जैसे हम फोलियर के थ्रू मैग्नीशियम देते हैं तो वो हमारा क्लोरोफिल बिल्डअप करवाती है और एक क्लोरोफिल बिल्डअप करवाने से वेजिटेटिव ग्रोथ पे, फोटोसिंथेसिस पे हमारा असर देखने को मिलता है, जो हमारी बड्स पे भी असर दिखाता है और हमारी फ्लावरिंग पे भी असर दिखाता है। देन डॉक्टर काटजा ने हमको बहुत ही अच्छी एक्सटेंसिव रिसर्च के साथ और तर्क के साथ कैल्शियम और बोरॉन की महत्वता समझाई कि कैसे कैल्शियम जो इस टाइम पे हम लोग देते हैं वो हमारा रूट सिस्टम को स्ट्रेंथन करने में मदद करता है। अभी का दिया हुआ कैल्शियम और बोरॉन, अभी के टाइम पे दिया हुआ कैल्शियम और बोरॉन, ये देखा गया कि फ्रूट के हार्वेस्ट में भी ये पाया गया, हार्वेस्टेड फ्रूट में ये कैल्शियम बोरॉन पाया जाता है और यही कैल्शियम बोरॉन कहीं ना कहीं एक्यूमुलेट होता है फ्रूट में, उसकी क्वालिटी और उसकी शेल्फ लाइफ को मदद करवाता है। हमें बोरॉन के बारे में डॉक्टर काटजा ने बहुत अच्छी जानकारी दी। हम सब लोग जानते हैं फ्लावरिंग के लिए, हमारी पोलन ट्यूब फॉर्मेशन के लिए, फ्रूट फॉर्मेशन के लिए, फ्रूट सेटिंग के लिए बोरॉन बहुत ज़रूरी है। तो डॉक्टर काटजा ने हमको रिसर्च से ये दिखाया कि जो अभी हम पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट में बोरॉन देते हैं वही बोरॉन हमारा फ्लावरिंग पे भी देखा जाता है, वही बोरॉन आपका बड्स में मैक्सिमम अमाउंट में होता है और वही बोरॉन आपका फ्लावरिंग क्लस्टर्स में भी पाया जाता है और इन्हीं का इफेक्ट हमारी अच्छी फ्लावरिंग पे, पोलन ट्यूब फॉर्मेशन पे और फ्रूट सेटिंग पे देखने को मिलता है। तो इस तरीके से डॉक्टर काटजा ने हमको एक एक न्यूट्रिएंट के बारे में बताया और कैसे दोनों फोलियर के ज़रिए और हमारी जो सॉइल एप्लीकेशन है उसके ज़रिए हम ये अपने सारे जो मोटिव्स हैं शेल्फ लाइफ अच्छी करने के, क्वालिटी अच्छी करने के लिए, और सबसे पहले हमारा ऑल्टरनेट बेयरिंग की, ऑन ईयर ऑफ ईयर की जो प्रॉब्लम है उसको ख़त्म करने के लिए कैसे यारा कंपनी इस पे काम कर रही है। तो डॉक्टर काटजा ने जो आप लोग को बताया सॉइल के लिए यारा मिला कॉम्प्लेक्स, यारा लेवा नाइट्राबोर, क्योंकि उन्होंने कहा कि कैल्शियम ऐसा देना चाहिए जो एक्चुअल में अवेलेबल फॉर्म में हो और वो कैल्शियम आपको यारा लेवा नाइट्राबोर में मिलता है। फोलियर में यारावीटा जिंट्रैक, यारावीटा बोट्रैक और यारावीटा बड बिल्डर के बारे में उन्होंने आप लोग को जानकारी दी। तो ये जानकारी आज डॉक्टर काटजा ने हम लोग के साथ साझा करी। अब मैं आप लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि आप अपने क्वेश्चंस हमारे चैट बॉक्स में लिखें ताकि हम डॉक्टर काटजा से वो सारे क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकें। थैंक यू सो मच। Dr. Kaja, I think you can see the questions on your screen. The first question is from Mr. Arun.
Sorry, I cannot see. How can I make it?
Okay, so you'll have to stop sharing the screen. No problem. I'll read the question for you. The first
Okay.
question is Mr. Arun is asking, what nutrients are most required for the Gala apple?
Oh, I think this is a question that you could better ask to the local Yara recommendation guides, because they know much more about the local conditions and the local cultivars. So I'm sorry. Of course, all the essential nutrients, all nutrients that I have mentioned are very important. And what I have mentioned for post-harvest nutrition is important equally for all cultivars. Actually, there's no big difference between cultivars regarding this post-harvest nutrition. I can say that for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Kaja. So, Mr. Arun, as Dr. Kaja said, that these are slightly local questions, but as said by her, all nutrients are required, and all cultivars more or less require the same kind of nutrient. Yes, the amount may slightly vary from cultivar to cultivar and age from age to age of the tree, but more or less the same amount of nutrients, and same nutrients are required at each and every stage of different cultivars. So I think that is what Dr. Kasha is trying to say. Am I right, Dr. Kasha?
Yes, it's right. Yes, but yeah, now you're
Thank
not
you.
translating, right?
No. Thank you. Okay, so next question is on your screen. I think you can read it now.
No, I answer show.
Okay, so I'll just read it for you. Mr. Avinash is asking,
Here now.
what you can read it?
Now I can read. What exactly is the right amount of NPK do we need to put in the 1-year-old Gala plants when we are having nitrogen-rich soil? And please explain how much nutrition do we need in second, third, and fourth year? Please share the PDF of your nutrition input that you use in galas in your region. This, I'm very sorry, is again a question to go to the local Yara guides, because I'm actually sitting in Germany. We also have many apple trees plantations, but we have for sure different fertilizer recommendations, differing also a lot on the cultivation practices. So I please ask the local Yara guides. They will for sure know how much NPK you should apply. What's the application recommendation for your region?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Avinash, I would request you to kindly share the soil test report and all your information with the local Yara team that is who is in touch with you. And we'll surely get back to you with the answer that what kind of nutrient and what amount of nutrient you should put depending upon your soil test report. And also for the second, third, and fourth year plants, also there would be slight increase in the amount, and that would also be shared with you. So I request you to kindly share your soil test report with the local Yara team. The next question from Mr. Ankit is on your screen, Dr. Kacha.
Do you have solutions for foggy conditions, and how here we can increase the size of the apples, as the size is a very, very big issue in the apple orchards in above 8,000 feet elevations located in foggy conditions. Also, apple also turns blackish in these areas, and how to improve that. Please advise. Wow, that's a very specific problem and question also. So I would say increase size of apples in general. Looking at the nutritional side, potassium is always helping also to increase the size of apples next to nitrogen, for example. At the same time, we have to have a look at the ratio of these nutrients in the fruit. So calcium has to be high also to make it resistant also against diseases when they turn blackish, I think. So I would consider really good applications of calcium. This should hopefully help.
Okay. Yeah. And what about phosphorus? Would there be any effect of phosphorus
You
in the
mean in
multivitamin?
this, especially in this foggy region? Well, it helps to build up the root formation also. So this might also increase then the calcium uptake. Yes, phosphorus can also help for sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So next question is on your screen.
Why do we have on and off here in apple trees, even after having good leaf and giving proper post-harvest? Okay, so I think on and off here is to a great extent also a cultivar problem, I think. So they are cultivars, they have a higher biennial rhythm, and they are cultivars with have a more consistent yield. So this is maybe an important also for the selection of cultivars when you have new plantations. And then you can regulate also by a good cutting of the tree, not too much, no, not too strong cutting, but equal every year and not too high. And then, of course, what you already mentioned, the proper post-harvest nutrition can also helps to make it more constant, the yield. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also like to know about russeting problem in Fuji's. What exactly can we use to reduce russeting? So there are results in literature showing that also calcium is able to reduce that. So this is what I would like to recommend, to advise to try high calcium sprays and calcium soil application. This might hopefully help against this
Right.
problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So next question.
But as from last few years, we are not getting plenty of time for proper leaf fall. For ADP plants, we are able to do post-harvest techniques, knowing advantages of post-harvest. But what can we do for conventional plants? As within fruit harvest, there is snowfall. Now solid fertilizers, we can't do application. Foliar sprays are sufficient or not? Also, but I have to.
Okay, so I think I'll let you know. He's what Mr. Adil is trying to say that because he sometimes after fruit harvest in Kashmir region we have snowfall, so he's not able to apply soil application, conventional trees, conventional planting techniques. So he's asking, would foliar spray be sufficient at post harvest if he's not able to apply soil application, soil fertilizers due to snowfall after fruit harvest?
I think the program what is recommended by the local Yara team, the foliar application, This should be done at least as far as possible with the snowfall. And soil application then should be done in spring as soon as it is possible. I would do it like this because, yeah, when there's already snowfall, solid fertilizers are difficult to apply, of course.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So I think, Mr. Adil, that answers your question. Next question is from Mr. Shokat.
Yeah. Which Yara product is given after post-harvest in soil and in foliar? Again, I have to admit that the Yara colleagues in India, they are much more familiar with the program that is available there, because Yara is working worldwide, and the products are also differing from country to country that are sold there. So I don't want to give a wrong product here. Please contact the local Yara colleagues. They are familiar, of course, with the products there.
Okay, so I'll answer that. Mr. Shokat, at post-harvest, you need to apply nutrients to both soil application and foliar application, as Dr. Kasta also said. So for soil application, we recommend Yara Miller Complex and Yara Liver Nitrabor. And for foliar application, we recommend Yara Vita Bud Builder and Yara Vita Zintrac and Yara Vita Botrac. So these are the recommendations that we are giving in India for soil and foliar application during post-harvest. And you may get in touch with our local team member there in your region, and he will properly guide you about the dosage and from where you can get those products. But the products are Yara Miller Complex and Yara Liver Nitrabo for soil application, and Yara Vita Bud Builder, Zintrac and Botrac for foliar application. Thank you, Mr. Shokat.
What is right time to apply soil and foliar nutrients means leaves should be active or leaves are in fall off stage. So the right time is after harvest, when the leaves are still on the tree. Then the root is still active, and the nutrients can be taken up by the leaves and can be taken into the trunk and into the roots, and there they are stored during the winter time and can be used for spring, for the early spring, then for the development of leaves and of course of flowers then.
Thank you.
Also, can we do leaf analysis twice in a year? Once on fruit set stage and another one fruit development stage. Can foliar application important to improve size? Question by farmer. Yes, I think the foliar application can improve the size and the shelf life and quality in general also. Especially calcium foliar application really helps to improve. Leaf analysis, I think it depends. Here in Germany, it's more done once a year, but also this differs from country to country, and you always need to have guiding values. So when there's a specific guiding value for a specific growth stage, then it doesn't make sense to do leaf analysis several times a year. You need to have the guidance values and where you can compare the values. So also for this question, then I would ask your local guide, or maybe you can also say something to this regarding how often you take the samples.
Yeah, the recommendation and the correct way is to do the sampling and analysis during July, August, because that is the time when leaves have the maximum, as Dr. Kaj just said, that there has to be a proper gradient, a proper amount of nutrient in the leaf for get the proper result. So July, August is a time when we have the maximum concentration of nutrients in the leaves, because after that the nutrients start moving towards the fruit, or they start getting remobilized or something. So the best time is to do that when the leaves have the maximum nutrient concentration before they get solubilized or they get remobilized. So that is July, August. So once in a year, that would be sufficient, because at that stage we would get the actual condition and actual nutrient concentration in the leaves. The next question is on your screen, Dr. Kant.
What is the ideal temperature to improve size, as in higher elevations we have less temperature as compared to lower elevations? I think this is also very much depending on the cultivar, because there are cultivars that can handle lower temperatures better than other cultivars. You cannot change temperature, but what you can change is nutrition, for example, and there also, good nutrition helps to let the tree grow very good and to have a good yield even at not ideal temperatures. And as I have shown before, calcium is helping, for example, with cold tolerance also. So.
Right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah. So next question.
We are growing red delicious here in India in huge nos. We have off-year in this cultivar, even giving proper post-harvest and maintaining good leaf until autumn. What else can we do to reduce the off-year in this cultivar? Okay, I would say maybe contact also local guidance and ask for a good cutting in this cultivar, because I think the cutting can help very much to have a relatively constant yield. So maybe this would then help when you already have done, as you said, or you have proper post-harvest. So you have already have good nutrition, obviously. Then I would say the cutting can help to have a more constant yield.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't think there are any other questions because they're not popping up on the screen. So, Dr. Kacha, any last words from you that you would like to address, like to say to our farmers?
I wish you a good growth cycle for the next season, of course, and then a good harvest.
Thank you. Really, thanks a lot, Dr. Kacha, for taking out such precious time, giving us such good time, and giving us such good information on apple and various researchers and nutrition related researchers. I'm sure these researchers and whatever you have taught us, whatever you have told us in today's presentation, today's FP Live, it would help our farmers in the long run. And I'm sure they would have learned something good from this FP Live, and they all would be very thankful to you. So, on behalf of Yara India and on behalf of all my apple farmers, I really thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye.